And, whoa, there we go. Nice storm on those units. Again, going to keep him from crossing that bridge. And Fantasy's going to be forced to hold back a little bit, though, although he has those tanks and vultures coming in the right side, so Stats is not going to be able to hold him back there. What I was going to say is that Stats, the Protoss player in this situation, wants things to go as long as possible so they can build up as much money in the bank as possible, so that after the battle happens, with both players throw their armies against each other, and both players kill a lot of their own, both players' units get a lot of, both players have a lot of their units killed, then the Protoss can rebuild very, very quickly, and if they have a bunch of money in the bank, then they can just rebuild very quickly, attack again, sacrifice their army again, and then rebuild very quickly again, and then, if they can keep doing that, it's much, much easier for them to keep doing that than for the Terran to keep rebuilding, so it's advantageous for the Protoss to do that. So that's what kind of Stats has been doing, is just kind of holding in a holding pattern. Is it going to get the EMP off? There's the Dragoons. The Dragoons do not get there in time, and the EMP goes off on the Arbiter. EMP goes off on, I think, one of the Templar as well, but it looks like Fantasy may get this bottom left base shut down. Those Templar don't really have much to do. They need to be starting to cast some storms, or at least Archon mode. There's nice storm right on that clump of Goliaths, and you can see Fantasy gearing up for those carriers with those Goliaths, which means they're going to be able to take out that Arbiter pretty quickly. And in the meantime, Fantasy, just camping a few tanks over here, has managed to take out that entire base. I'm surprised he didn't send those carriers in earlier. It's not like he's waiting for any kind of surprise moment with those carriers at this point. Wow, the Arbiter escapes somehow. That's kind of weird. But yeah, he should have sent those carriers in to take out that tank before they killed one of his Nexi. Nexuses? I'm not sure what the plural of Nexus is, actually. Maybe the plural of Nexus is Nexuses. So now he's going to clean up those tanks and get that base back, but it's a little bit late. He should have sent those carriers in earlier, even though he only had a few of them. But now the carriers are unleashed, and they've got an Arbiter alongside as well, which is going to be nice. It's going to help them stay protected. Oh, he's going to recall! He's going to recall in the middle of that base as well! And the turrets, unfortunately, are going after his Arbiter. The turrets knock... Oh! Storm all over those SVs! It's going to kill, look like maybe close to a dozen SCVs. So nicely done. And now the carriers, like I said, are unleashed here. And he is going to be able to run amok with these carriers. And Fantasy, for some reason, not having a ton of Goliaths. And maybe because his forces were maxed out before and he just did not have the supply to build up a sizable carrier Goliath force. Never mind. There's the Goliath force right now coming in. He's got a dozen and a half Goliaths right now, but a nice little stasis, not quite on the ramp, which would have been optimal, but it's going to make it so that it's virtually impossible for him to move his Goliaths up that ramp, though. He's going to be forced to use a bunch of comsats or keep that science vessel in harm's way in order to attack those carriers. Carriers are going to fall back now. Now, critically, I don't see what's going on at the 9 o'clock base. It looks like Stats still has that base. If Fantasy moved a couple tanks in there, he might be able to take out that base, but it looks like he is going to be able to keep that base. And Fantasy now attacking with ground units down along the left side as well. Fantasy has forces way up that ramp into that 3 o'clock position. He may try and take that base back again. He had a base starting in there a little bit ago. But now, Stats moving in the left side. A little bit of overkill with this storm on those tanks with all those units there. Could have taken that out pretty easily. But now Fantasy is just countering. He's not trying to bring his forces back. He may kill off this base very quickly and then bring his forces back to defend. But at this point, he's letting Stats in on the left side here. This is going to be very, very close. If they go for an elimination race of some kind, usually the Terran wins, but sometimes the carriers are better suited for mass killing. And with most of his army on the right side of the map, Fantasy only has a handful of Goliaths that are going to be able to in his main base. Stats need to be careful with those carriers, though. And now tanks are in position to camp that top right base as well. So Stats has also, in a way, decided to not worry about his main base. And in that kind of a situation, like I said, the Terran is usually going to be faster at killing off the enemy base. And he's going to be better able to defend as well, as we can see right here with just a single tank on that ridge and some units blocking the ramp. Stats losing some Templar pretty carelessly. He's mostly focusing on these carriers. Got He's got a decent squad of carriers now, and I'm not sure why he's not really microing them. He needs to clump those carriers up so they're harder to target fire, and then start targeting units and microing them a little bit. I mean, this is not Stork we're seeing right here. This is Stats, and Stats finally clearing up those tanks in the top right. So basically, he just let those units kill his base again. This is the second time that's happened where he's just let a couple units kill his base off when he could have easily just sent something in to clear them out, and that may be his downfall in the long run. Although, what we just saw is something I didn't realize. Fantasy is almost mined out. Fantasy is almost mined out because, he stayed at those 3 bases for a long time, and Stats has killed his bases on the left. Stats killed his extra base on the right side at the 3 o'clock position. And it looks like 2-2 upgrades, by the way, for those carriers, which is pretty nice. And yeah, so Fantasy forced to lift his natural CC and move it to the bottom left to get some mineral intake. So, if Stats sees this and he goes in and takes out the command center, he will basically win the game because Stats is still mining at 2 bases on the left side of the map. Even though he lost his 2 bases on the top right, he's looking in good position. Now he's just going to camp those carriers. Well, I don't know if he's going to keep him there, but he's going to camp those carriers there and defend his fledgling base on the 9 o'clock position. I thought he was mining off that base earlier, so I've been referring to that as a functioning base, but in fact it looks like it was killed by tanks earlier, so it was taken out after all. So now he's going to have to rebuild that, but still in a little bit better position than, not as good of a position as I expected, or as I thought, but he is still in a little bit better position, and now he's actually microing his carriers there. He's going to be picking off, looks like he's actually picking off the tanks, which can be a smart move if you've got a ground army to support. Go in there with the carriers, pick off the tanks, you lose some interceptors, and then your ground army can come in and wipe up the Goliaths a lot easier. Those SCVs fail at mining, and that is actually really going to be a bad thing here. Now he's setting up a bunch of shield batteries, which is actually kind of a smart little move, because now he can have these shield batteries. He can recharge his carriers to make sure they don't get picked off, and because oh wow, all those Goliaths get stasis. Almost all of his Goliath army gets stasis. The Dragoons coming in are going to be able to easily take out the one tank there. The rest of the Goliaths are on the run. He's going to be able to surround those stasis Goliaths with Dragoons and Zealots, but he may just ignore them altogether. If he can go in and kill that bottom left base, then it won't even matter. He sees the lifted command center. He's going to be able to take out that bottom left base. Ladies and gentlemen, the no-name Stats is going to take out the OSL Silverist of Fantasy here in the first game of the first MST set, and this is going to be definitely an upset. I mean, this group has Fantasy, I forgot who Fantasy, Stats, I think Much, and Type B, and so in that field, Fantasy is the clear favorite to come out of this group, and he's not going to be out of it yet. If you don't know the MST format, it's a double elimination thing where you have to lose 2 games. So even if he loses this game, he's still going to be able to be in a good position. There's GG coming from Fantasy with his army on the ropes, being dwindled down there, and with his bottom left base destroyed, his third base probably mined out. Fantasy GG's. So Stats is going to go on to the winners match. There's 4 people in a group, and 2 sets of 2. The winners of them face each other, the losers of them face each other, and then the winner of the losers match faces the loser of the winners match. I'll explain it more later. The vid's about to be over. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.